They said I tried to steal my own granddaughter. They said I was dangerous, unstable, a monster. But the truth was, I was just a mother who loved her son too much and trusted the wrong woman. My daughter-in-law didn't just take my family away from me. She turned my own child against me, destroyed my name, and nearly destroyed my life. This is the story of how lies buried me alive and how truth fought its way back to the light. The woman who stole my son. My name is Margaret Wilson, and for 62 years, I believed I understood the meaning of love, sacrifice, and family. I raised my son Daniel with hands that were always tired but never empty. His father died when Daniel was only 3 years old. From that day on, I became mother and father both. I worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and cooking at a diner in the mornings. I missed birthdays, school plays, and holidays, but I never missed a single meal for my child. Daniel grew up gentle, kind, respectful. Everyone in our small town in Georgia said, "Margaret, your son has a good heart." And I was proud, so proud. When he told me he was getting married, I cried tears of happiness. "I want you to meet her, Mama," he said over the phone. "Her name is Vanessa." The first time I saw her, she looked perfect. Long, straight hair, sharp eyes, lipstick too bright for a Sunday afternoon. She shook my hand instead of hugging me. "So you're the famous Margaret," she said with a thin smile. "Daniel talks about you a lot." I didn't notice the coldness then. I thought maybe she was nervous. I cooked a full dinner, fried chicken, mashed potatoes, cornbread, and peach cobbler, my best dishes. Vanessa took one bite and placed her fork down. "Oh, this is very traditional," she said. Daniel laughed. "That's Mom's cooking." She smiled at him, but not at me. "We usually eat healthier, but thanks." Something twisted in my chest, but I swallowed it down. I told myself, she's young, she doesn't mean harm. I was wrong. After they got married, everything changed. At first, it was small. Daniel stopped coming by every Sunday. His calls became shorter. "Vanessa is tired," he would say. "We're busy," he would say. "Maybe next week, Mom." Next week never came. One day, I decided to surprise them with groceries. When Vanessa opened the door, her face dropped. "Oh, you didn't call," she said. "I just wanted to help," I replied, holding the bags. She stepped aside but crossed her arms. Daniel came out of the bedroom. "Mom, you should call first. Vanessa doesn't like surprises." Doesn't like surprises, or doesn't like me. Soon, she began changing him. She told him my house was old and smelled funny. She said my stories were depressing. She said I was too emotional. Worst of all, she said I was a problem. I heard it with my own ears one night when I called unexpectedly. Daniel had left the phone on speaker. "She's always calling. It's annoying. You're married now. She needs to understand her place." My hands began to shake. Daniel said nothing. That silence broke my heart more than her words. Months passed. I saw my son less and less. On Thanksgiving, I sat alone with a small turkey I couldn't finish. On Christmas, I wrapped a gift that never got opened. Then came the news that changed everything. Vanessa was pregnant. I was overjoyed. A grandchild, a piece of Daniel that would still belong to me. I knitted blankets, bought baby clothes, painted a small corner of my room yellow. But Vanessa did not share my joy. When I asked if I could go with her to doctor appointments, she said, "No, that's private." When I offered to help with the nursery, she said, "We don't need your old-fashioned ideas." When I touched her belly once, she slapped my hand away. "Don't. I don't like being touched." I felt like a stranger. When the baby was born, a little girl named Alyssa, I cried all night from happiness. But I was not allowed in the hospital room. "She doesn't want visitors," Daniel said quietly. For 3 weeks, I saw pictures only, not the baby. When I finally visited, Vanessa watched me like a guard. "Don't hold her like that. Wash your hands again. Not too long." When Alyssa cried, Vanessa snatched her from my arms. "You're upsetting her." No, I was loving her. Slowly, Vanessa's cruelty grew stronger. She told Alyssa, "Grandma's house is dirty." She said Grandma is old and sick. She laughed when Alyssa refused to hug me. One night, I confronted her. "Vanessa, what did I ever do to you?" I asked with tears in my eyes. She leaned against the counter and crossed her arms. "You did nothing. You exist. That's the problem. Daniel doesn't need you anymore." My knees almost gave out. "He's my son," I whispered. She smiled coldly. "He's my husband now." From that day on, Daniel stopped coming completely. No calls, no visits, no holidays. I went to their house one evening and knocked. Vanessa opened the door just enough to see me. "You're not welcome here anymore. Daniel says you make him uncomfortable." I saw my son sitting on the couch behind her, staring at the floor. "Daniel," I called. He didn't look up. The door closed. I stood there in the dark, holding a bag of cookies I had baked for Alyssa. That night, something inside me died. Weeks later, I received a message from Daniel. "Mom, please stop coming. Vanessa says it's better this way." Better for who? I became sick. My heart felt heavy every day. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My neighbor found me fainted one morning and took me to the hospital. When Daniel heard, he came once. Vanessa stood behind him in the doorway. "See, this is what I mean. Drama, always drama." I looked at my son. "I just wanted to be your mother," I whispered. He said nothing. Vanessa turned and left the room first. Daniel followed. I stared at the ceiling and realized the truth. I had lost my son, not to death, but to a woman who hated my existence. And this was only the beginning of her cruelty. The lies she built around me. After that night in the hospital, something inside me changed forever. I used to believe that if I loved my son hard enough, if I waited patiently, things would return to the way they were. But Vanessa did not want peace. She wanted control, and control grows best in silence and fear. Weeks passed without a single phone call from Daniel. I would pick up my phone every morning and stare at his name, wondering if today would be the day he remembered he had a mother. Some mornings, I even practiced what I would say. "Hi, sweetheart. I just wanted to hear your voice. I made your favorite pie. I miss you." But I never pressed the call button, because I already knew the answer. One afternoon, I ran into Daniel's old friend, Chris, at the grocery store. "Margaret," he said, surprised, "I haven't seen you at Daniel's place in forever." My heart jumped. "You've been there?" He hesitated. "Yeah, Vanessa had a barbecue last weekend." "A barbecue?" I whispered. "With family?" He nodded slowly. "Her family and some neighbors. Daniel was there." I stood frozen beside the apples. "She told everyone you moved to another state, said you didn't want to be involved anymore." My hands began to tremble. "Moved away?" didn't want to be involved? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed his words again and again. Vanessa wasn't just keeping me away, she was rewriting my story. She was erasing me. I decided I would confront her, not with anger, with truth. The next morning, I drove to their house. My heart pounded so loudly, I thought I might faint before reaching the door. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Vanessa opened the door, holding Alyssa on her hip. "Oh," she said flatly, "you again." "I need to talk to Daniel," I said. "He's not here." I could see his truck in the driveway. "Please," I whispered, "I just want to see my granddaughter." Vanessa laughed softly, not kindly, cruelly. "You really don't understand, do you?" she said. "You don't belong here anymore." I looked at Alyssa. She reached for me. "Grandma," she said. Vanessa pulled her back. "No," she snapped. "Don't touch her. Grandma makes trouble." My chest felt like it was tearing open. "I've done nothing wrong," I said. "I love her." Vanessa leaned closer, her voice low. "And that's the problem. She doesn't need you. I don't need you. And Daniel doesn't need you." Before I could speak again, she slammed the door in my face. I stood there for several minutes, unable to move. That was the day she officially made me an enemy. After that, the lies became louder. People in town began looking at me differently. At church, women whispered when I walked by. One Sunday, the pastor's wife gently asked, "Margaret, are you feeling better now?" "Better?" I asked. "Yes, after everything with Daniel." "What everything?" She looked confused. "Vanessa said you had emotional problems, that you scared the baby and caused scenes at their house." I felt dizzy. "She said you're unstable," the woman continued softly. "We were worried." Unstable. That was Vanessa's new weapon. She told people I was sick in the head, that I cried too much, that I threatened her, that I tried to steal her baby. None of it was true, but lies spread faster than truth. Soon, I was no longer invited to family events. Neighbors avoided me. Even the cashier at the pharmacy looked uncomfortable when she saw me. One afternoon, I received a letter, not from Daniel, from a lawyer. It said I was not allowed to visit their home again, that I was causing emotional distress, that any further contact would be considered harassment. My knees gave out, and I sat on the kitchen floor holding that paper. Harassment? I carried him for 9 months. I raised him alone. I worked until my hands cracked. And this is what I deserve? I tried calling Daniel, straight to voicemail. I left one message. "Son, I don't know what she's telling you, but I never meant to hurt you. I just want to see you. Please." He never replied. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Alyssa grew taller without me. I watched her childhood through stolen photos on social media. Vanessa would post smiling pictures with captions like, "Family is all we need. No drama, just peace." I wanted to scream. One winter night, a storm hit our town. Power lines fell, roads flooded. I worried about them. I worried about my grandbaby. Against better judgment, I drove there. The house was dark. I knocked hard. Daniel opened the door this time. "Mom?" he said, startled. For 1 second, I saw the son I raised. "I just came to check on you," I said. "The storm." Vanessa appeared behind him. "What is she doing here?" "I came because I love you, because I worried," I cried. "Daniel, please." He looked between us. "Mom, you should go," he said quietly. The words cut deeper than any knife. "I carried you for 9 months. I buried your father alone. I worked until my hands cracked. And this is what I deserve?" Vanessa laughed. "Always the victim," she said. "See, this is what I mean." She turned to Daniel. She manipulates you with tears. She's sick. I looked at my son, begging with my eyes, but he chose her. Please leave, he said again. Something inside me shattered. I walked away into the storm. Rain soaked my coat. Wind whipped my face. I didn't feel it. I felt empty. A week later, I collapsed at home. The doctor said my blood pressure was dangerously high. Stress was killing me. Who is hurting you? He asked gently. I couldn't answer, because how do you explain that your own child has been turned against you? In the hospital, no one came. No flowers, no calls, no visits. Only my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins. You need to let them go, she whispered, before they destroy you. That night, alone in my hospital bed, I realized something painful. Vanessa had not just taken my son, she had taken my voice, my reputation, my place in the world, and she was not finished. Because cruelty like hers never stops once it tastes power. It only grows. And soon, she would do something that would change everything forever. The crime I never committed. I thought I had already reached the lowest point a mother could reach. I was wrong. Cruelty has many faces, but Vanessa chose the ugliest one of all. She turned me into a criminal in my own town. It began with a phone call I will never forget. I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at an old photo of Daniel as a little boy, when I heard loud knocking on my door. Not a friendly knock, a hard knock. Authority. I opened the door to find 2 police officers standing on my porch. Margaret Wilson, one of them asked. Yes, I said, my voice shaking. We need you to come with us. For what? I whispered. You are being accused of threatening behavior and attempted kidnapping. The world stopped. Kidnapping? I cried. That's insane. One officer looked uncomfortable. Your daughter-in-law claims you tried to take her child by force and made violent threats. My legs almost gave out. I knew immediately. Vanessa. They searched my house. They asked questions. Neighbors watched from their windows like I was a monster. By the time I sat in that cold interview room, my heart felt like it had already died. Did you go to your son's house during the storm? The officer asked. Yes, I said, to check on them. Did you try to take the child? No. Did you shout and cause a disturbance? I begged my son to talk to me, I said. I cried. One officer sighed. She says you were screaming, grabbing the baby, and threatening to report her. I laughed weakly. I would never hurt my granddaughter. I would die for her. But lies had already been written down. I was released later that night, but not free. There was now a report with my name on it. People didn't look at me the same anymore. The next morning, my phone exploded with messages from churchwomen, from neighbors, from people I thought were my friends. Is it true you tried to steal the baby? Are you okay mentally? You scared them badly. I wanted to crawl out of my own skin. I tried calling Daniel. Voicemail. I drove to his house again, shaking with fear and anger. Vanessa opened the door with a calm smile. Oh, she said, you got questioned already? That was fast. You lied, I said. You called the police on me. She crossed her arms. I protected my family. You destroyed me. She leaned closer and whispered, No, I taught you a lesson. Daniel stood behind her again, silent as a statue. Daniel, I cried, she accused me of kidnapping your child. He looked down. She was scared, he said quietly. scared? She planned this, I said. You know me. You know I'd never. Mom, stop, he said. You stress Vanessa out. That's enough. I felt something break inside my chest. Not crack, break. You believe her? I whispered. She's my wife, he said. Those 4 words buried me alive. From that day on, my life became a courtroom without walls. I lost my job at the library because parents complained. I stopped going to church because people whispered. Children crossed the street when they saw me walking. Vanessa had not just taken my family, she had taken my identity. One afternoon, I received court papers, a restraining order. I was legally forbidden from seeing my own son and granddaughter. I stared at that paper for hours. How did love turn into a crime? Weeks passed in silence. Then came the worst blow. I was admitted to the hospital again, this time with chest pains. A heart attack, they said. Mild but dangerous. I lay in that hospital bed waiting for someone to come. No one did. Not Daniel, not Vanessa, not Alyssa. Only Mrs. Jenkins sat beside me. They don't deserve your tears, she said. I just want my son, I whispered. She squeezed my hand. Then you must survive this first. When I came home, I found my mailbox stuffed with hateful letters. One said, "Stay away from children." Another said, "You are sick." I burned them in my sink. Every night, I dreamed of Alyssa calling me grandma. Every morning, I woke up alone. But something strange happened inside me. Pain turned into clarity. I started writing everything down. Dates, times, what was said, what was done. I collected old messages from Daniel, photos of birthdays, proof that I had always been loving, not dangerous. I went to a legal aid office. The young lawyer read my story quietly. This is emotional abuse and false accusation. Can I fix this? I asked. She nodded. Truth has power, but it will be hard. Hard? My whole life had become hard. One afternoon, I saw Vanessa in town. She was laughing with friends at a cafe. My heart pounded. She saw me and smiled, a victorious smile. She walked over. "You look tired," she said sweetly. "Stress does that." "You will regret what you did," I said quietly. She tilted her head. "No, I won." And then she added the words that still haunt me. "Daniel will never choose you. You're already dead to him." That night, I cried harder than I ever had in my life. But I also made a decision. I would not die quietly. I would not let lies be my grave. I would fight, not with anger, but with truth. Because one day, Alyssa would grow up, and one day she would ask, "Why didn't Grandma love me?" And I needed to make sure the answer was, she did. She just wasn't allowed to. When truth finally spoke. They say truth is slow, but when it arrives like thunder. After months of silence, fear, and loneliness, I finally stood in a courtroom with trembling hands and a heart that had already been broken too many times. I never wanted revenge. I only wanted my name back. I only wanted my son back. The lawyer I found through legal aid, Miss Harper, was young but fierce. "We will not attack," she said. "We will prove." She helped me gather everything. Old messages from Daniel thanking me for being there, photos of birthdays and holidays, hospital records proving I was sick, not dangerous, witnesses, neighbors who saw me stand crying on their porch, never violent, and most importantly, a storm night security video from a neighbor's camera across the street. It showed me standing outside their house, soaked in rain, holding a grocery bag, not grabbing a child, not screaming, not threatening, just standing, just crying. The day of the hearing arrived. Vanessa walked in wearing black, looking confident. Daniel followed behind her, his face pale and tired. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. He would not look at me. My heart whispered, "Please see me, just once." The judge began reading the accusations. Attempted kidnapping, threatening behavior, emotional instability. Each word felt like another stone on my chest. Vanessa testified first. She cried beautifully. "She terrified me," Vanessa said. "She wouldn't leave. She tried to grab my baby. I feared for my family." Daniel sat beside her, silent. Then it was my turn. I stood slowly. "My name is Margaret Wilson," I said. "I raised my son alone after his father died. Everything I did in life was for him. I never tried to take his child. I only tried to protect my family during a storm." My voice shook, but I did not stop. I was called dangerous. I was called sick, but all I ever was lonely. The judge nodded. "Play the video." The courtroom became silent. The screen showed me standing outside the house, holding a grocery bag, knocking, stepping back, wiping my face. No violence, no child, no threat. Vanessa's face went white. Then the neighbor testified. "She stood there for maybe 10 minutes, he said. "She never touched anyone. She just kept saying, 'I'm worried about my baby boy.'" Then came the pastor's wife. "She was always kind," she said. "We were told she was unstable, but I never saw that." Finally, the judge looked at Vanessa. "Do you still claim she attempted kidnapping?" Vanessa's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Daniel finally turned and looked at me. For the first time in a year, he saw the truth. Not the story, not the lie. The mother who raised him. "Mrs. Wilson," the judge said, "there is no evidence of wrongdoing. The restraining order is dismissed." My knees almost gave out. The judge then turned to Vanessa. "False accusations have consequences. This court will investigate your statements further." Vanessa stood up suddenly. "You don't understand," she shouted. "She controlled him his whole life." Daniel flinched. The judge banged the gavel. "Sit down." Vanessa's mask fell apart in front of everyone. Outside the courtroom, Daniel approached me slowly. "Mom," he said. I could not speak. Tears fell before words did. "She lied to me," he whispered. "I believed her. I'm so sorry." I touched his face for the first time in years. "You're alive. That's all I wanted." That night, Daniel came to my house alone. Vanessa did not come. He sat at the same kitchen table where I once made him peanut butter sandwiches. "She told me you were dangerous. She said you wanted to ruin our marriage." I shook my head. "I only wanted to be your mother." He cried like a little boy again. "I failed you." "No," I said. "You were lost." Days later, Vanessa packed her things and left. She blamed everyone. The court later found her guilty of false reporting and emotional manipulation, but the damage she caused could not be erased. Alyssa came to my house for the first time in 2 years. She stood at the door, shy. "Grandma?" she whispered. I dropped to my knees and held her. "Yes, baby, Grandma is here." We baked cookies, we painted pictures, we planted flowers in the backyard. Daniel watched us from the porch with tears in his eyes. "I almost lost both of you," he said. Weeks turned into months. Healing was slow. Trust did not come back in one day. Some nights I still woke up afraid. Some days Daniel carried guilt like a heavy coat. But we were together again. One evening, Daniel said, "Mom, how did you survive all that?" I looked at Alyssa sleeping on the couch. Love, I said, even when it hurts. On Alyssa's 7th birthday, she hugged me and said, "Grandma, Mommy said bad things about you before, but Daddy says you're the bravest woman he knows." I kissed her hair. One day she will know the full truth, but for now, she only knows she is loved. I lost years of my life to lies, but I gained something stronger than pain. My voice, my dignity, my family. And now when I look in the mirror, I no longer see a broken woman. I see a survivor. I see a mother who refused to disappear. I see proof that even when cruelty wins for a season, truth always wins in the end. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones closest to our hearts. I lost my son to lies, but I found myself through truth. If you are a mother sitting in silence, blamed for things you never did, remember this: you are not weak for loving, you are strong for surviving. And no matter how long darkness lasts, truth always finds its way home. This is not just my story. It's the story of every parent who refused to be erased. Please like the video and subscribe my channel for more such videos. Take care. Bye-bye.